I'm a big fan of co-op games, be that from the chaotic games of Overcooked and the genre that's created, or going right the way back to other weird examples such as Kuri Mix or something like that. I'm also a huge fan of track building games, and my years playing Gene Rally and making terrible tracks on that, but still loving them anyway, is testament to how much I enjoy building tracks. So seeing those two things combined under Can't Drive This really had me excited from the very first announcements of this and it going into early access back in 2017. Several years later and several iterations later, it's now released onto consoles and has its kind of 1.0 official final form. But I found it still quite lukewarm and didn't scratch the itch for me. So what I wanted to do with this review is to kind of break down exactly why I find Can't Drive This doesn't scratch the itch for me. And it's going to be a bit meandery and I'm going to go through several points, but they all cumulatively make up to this kind of I've had enough feeling of Can't Drive This, where I wasn't engaged and found actually it to be extremely repetitive and fall flat. Can't Drive This is primarily 2 to 4 players playing the game. There is a single player mode, but I'll touch on that at the end. And there's 3 different versions of Can't Drive This. The main version is called Yardage, and here you've got one person laying the track in front of you on one side, and they'll view the screen as you can see from a top-down perspective, and all of the pieces of track that they get in front of them are randomly generated. You have no control over what is being put in front of you. You do have control over where you can place it in this kind of square grid in the sky. You'll get anything from straight pieces of road, chicanes with barriers or just cones. Then you'll get like the water lake jumps. Then you've got mounds or you've got mud pits. Then you'll start to get like the Wipeout / Takeshi's Castle sections with hot saws and hammers and spinny mallets and all kinds of things. Rings of fires and jumps as well. They're all there, but you just have no control over the order of what they come up in. It does have some logic to it, so usually if you get a jump ramp up, you will get a jump ramp down again, but you might get a ring of fire in between. Occasionally you might get 2 or 3 bits of water or mud in between, and so you're really kind of thinking, oh god, where am I going to land, where am I going to land? And because the game goes so quickly and a round is over so quickly, you don't really have time to forward plan. You're busy being reactive, just smashing down where you want something to go, seeing if you've got barriers that block off certain exit points, and then just changing the direction of that squared track as you go. As a driver, actually, your job is less stressful, I found, when I was switching between the two. And because you're driving this monster truck that has a lot of grip when it's on normal terrain, but sadly absolutely zero grip when you're on water or mud, you're just kind of going forward, trying to stay at about 75% speed so that you can give the poor track builder some kind of chance, and then hoping that you can kind of survive any of the water or mud slides that you're going to get, and waiting for your inevitable end, because the end will come and it will come quick. It will either be because you fell off the track, or it's because you're going too slow, or you hit something and then your car starts to vibrate and turn into a shade of red, and then it will explode into flames if you don't get back up to speed very quickly. You can switch roles at any point, and there's always one track builder, but you can have 2 or 3 cars actually driving as you go around in this mode. The issue with all of this is that there's no particular end goal. And that's the problem. When you're laying tracks down, you're picking up points for scoring, and you score by going as fast as you can whilst also covering as many new pieces of track as a driver as you can. But because everything is so randomly generated, the online leaderboards mean absolutely diddly squat, because what one person gets is completely different to someone else, as it will for you on the next go. It also has a penchant for throwing down pieces of track together that make your life absolute hell, and this is specifically around boost pads. It loves to put 2 or 3 of them in a row, and because that speeds up your monster truck so quickly, you can't actually physically keep up as a track builder when you're doing that. And so it's an inevitable kind of end of the match if you do that. Whilst it always wants you to kind of keep driving forward, what we found when I was playing with some friends online with the PC version is that we ended up spin turning round and just driving back down the same piece of road again, so that we could kind of dump some of the bits of track that we didn't want, so that we could end up finding a way back out again. And that seemed like it was a bit of a cheat's way of doing things, but it worked for us. But ultimately, because there's no goal, no end point, the unlockables were just cosmetic. I didn't feel like I was unlocking any new track pieces, and ultimately I had no control over anything on either side. It felt very hands-off, disengaging, and meandery. The other problem is that it's so stop and start because rounds go so quickly. You need every player to be good for this game to last longer than 60 seconds per go. Otherwise, one of you will be off the track, or one of you won't be building the track properly, so that you can't then actually keep yourself going for for longer than a minute, literally longer than a minute. It was rare for us to do that and actually have something go well. And because you're at the mercy of the random number generator gods, it doesn't feel like it's your fault, and it doesn't feel like you get a chance. So what initially was hilariarity, because we were laughing at how terrible we were, about 2 hours in, we'd had enough and couldn't be bothered with it anymore. Thankfully, what we did find as a group of people playing together was that there's a second mode called Game of Drones, and this does have a goal-orientated experience. And thank God for that, because this is the shining mode for me. It puts you in an arena where you've got to collect various different pickups. So instead of just meandering around just placing road, you're now working out as puzzle pieces, how can I make that track get round to a pickup to pick it up and do them all and clear the level. You've got 3 lives for each level. Your nemesis is that there's a drone chucking EMPs onto the track. So not only are you avoiding all of the hazards that the track itself gives you, you've got this drone chucking things at you that will nullify and neutralise your controls if you hit them. Very tricky. It builds up exponentially the challenge, because as you get through more and more levels, the drone gets more aggressive, but also you have to collect more things per level as the levels get wider and more diverse, I would say. If you have 4 players available, then Capture the Egg might be something for you too. With Capture the Egg, it's 2 versus 2, again 1 track builder, 1 racer, and you've got to build the track and get to the other person's base so that you can capture their concrete egg, tow it back to your own base, and the first one that does that's the winner. But again here, because of the lack of scope and vastness of everything, a game could be fantastic or it could be terrible. And it's because you could actually do it just as a race, getting to one side to the other without ever coming across your opponent. Or you can just actually merge in the middle and end up having some kind of weird track-off, where you just end up in some kind of entangled mess. The beauty of it, though, is that the concrete egg has tons of weight. So if you're trying to spin it round a corner, it will drag you left, right and centre. It will get caught up in all the different barriers and all that type of jazz, and makes it good chaotic fun, especially if you meet in the middle in a mode. But yeah, I think for me, where Can't Drive This became in its best form was when I viewed it more like a hyperspeed puzzle rather than an arcade action co-op game of any sort. If you're looking at Can't Drive This from a single player's experience, there is a mode here where you switch between the 2 modes, but it's clunky at best. You get 60 seconds to try and collect some power-ups. Every power-up you collect adds 10 seconds to your time, and therefore your score will increase, in theory, by being able to drive further. The problem with this is that switching between the 2 modes means that you only lay a couple of bits of track out and then you drive. Then you switch modes and then you lay a new and then you drive. And it's just even more bitty than what the multiplayer version is. And so my overall kind of arching feel of Can't Drive This is that by its own design, it's pushed itself into this weird micro gaming section that isn't satisfying, feels repetitive, doesn't give you any feedback, puts you in awkward corners that you don't feel like you deserved or was warranted, and so doesn't engage you as a player for long term. I can see lots of people having great fun with this for about half an hour and then getting very sick and tired of it very quickly because of that lack of everything else that's going on. Why isn't there the ability to upload tracks and have other people download them and do some kind of time trials? Why isn't there a daily time trial that's available for people to muck about with? Why is it that the random generation of the track pieces means that inevitably it will cause my own death that I don't feel is warranted or required? Why does it feel so aimless, yet still only lasts 60 seconds? It's this weird, jarring way of how it's been implemented, which makes it thoroughly unengaging. So a written review of this will be over on higherplayinggames.com shortly. And I'm so sorry that I feel like I've been quite harsh. It's just that I've had really high expectations for this, especially after a really long early access period, and it doesn't feel like it's come together in a way that works for me. So thanks for watching, you guys take care, and I'll see you hopefully in another video. Bye! Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplanenetwork. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.